What I'm talking to you about today is kind of harnessing trends and LTOs, the development of the product, trends that could make sense for you, but how to market those things, how to come up with the development of it as well. When we think of trends that are kind of like hot right now, if you think of global soups, stews, think of birria, think of things like ramen, pho, and things of that nature. And it could be, you don't have to think that, hey, I'm not an Asian restaurant, I'm not a Thai restaurant, I don't have those types of components that are there. You could really create it with anything. Even if you were an Italian restaurant, you could take something like Italian beef and convert that into a pho dish or a ramen dish using the same types of components where it's still approachable to your customers. It's just a creative way to offer something different to them. You know, global wings is a big deal right now, and it's kind of beyond just buffalo wings or Thai chili and things like that. Using some components that we'll see in a couple of minutes, things like chili crisp, which is a really hot flavor trend to add on to global wings, using things like sambo olik or something like that into a blend to give you some different flavor profiles. International barbecue, in specific Korean and Japanese, those flavor profiles are a big trend right now. Thinking of that like with dry rubs or marinades and flavors that come out as well with it. Everything hot honey is always good. You don't have to just buy your own pre-done, honey. You could flavor it yourself. You could take something like sambo olik, you could take something like harissa or any type of a spice, add that to honey itself and let it kind of infuse its flavor to get something unique for yourself. The same thing is true with spicy ranch. Ranch dressing is definitely something that's probably the #1 salad dressing that's out there. So people are always looking for how can I make it a little bit different or a little bit more unusual with it. I actually just did an LTO menu ideation for a customer where we took some spicy ranch, added a little bit of hot honey to it, to give a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of spice. I actually even added a little bit of chipotle pepper to give a little smokiness to it. So I had a little smoky flavor, a little bit of sweetness, right, coming out of the honey itself, a little bit of spice from that. Have any of y'all ever used harissa before or seen harissa? So used a lot in Middle Eastern cuisine with it. It really has a little, it's got spice, but it's got a little bit more sweetness to it. You see a lot of like roasted red peppers are in it, or if you have like, think of the flavor like a tomato, a little bit of acidity, a little bit of sweetness to it. I really love taking something like harissa, roasting out like corn or roasting out carrots, and then tossing them in a little bit of harissa with a butter blend and stuff like that to give a little spice or something to the end of it to make it a little bit more unusual with it. Chili crisp is a huge deal right now. I don't know if y'all know, there's a chef called David Chang. Have y'all heard of him before? He's been on the Food Network, Travel Channel. He's got a restaurant called Mamafuko in Las Vegas. He actually wanted to copyright chili crisp. It's basically taking and cooking down garlic with a lot of crushed chilies. You could use a wide variety of dry ones. That could be a flavoring component by itself. It's often used as a condiment on top or on the table side for something for you to be able to sell. Just to give a little lift of heat. Great to put on top of a pizza, to put on top of a sandwich and all as well for a flavor profile. Tagine is something, I would tell you, even though it's listed as a trend, it's probably more of a fabric in culinary creativity because it's been a trend for 5 or 6 years. People have been using it pretty traditionally and pretty classically. And here, they're showing you flavoring it with a little bit of fresh mango. It's on the straw itself. It's got a little bit of, think of like a little tartness or acidity to it, or brightness, like a lime flavor to it. Not overly spicy, but it's, again, a nice addition to things. Floral flavors are a big deal right now. Hibiscus is probably one of the more popular ones. Rosewater is something else that's being utilized in a lot of cocktail formation with it. When we look at other foods that are really thinking of flavor, this first one up, comfort food. So everybody is looking for a food item that kind of reminds them of being back home, right? It could be meatloaf, but you could heighten that meatloaf, right? It could be that you're going to use ground veal or use ground lamb or something like that in place of just ground beef with it. Could be turkey, could be chicken, anything like that that's creative. You get creative with what the filling is in the ingredients. If I wanted to do an Hispanic one, I might grind up the beef to go with it, and then add like roasted poblano chili peppers into it. Maybe do like a chipotle barbecue sauce or ketchup to glaze over the top of it to give a little bit different flavor profile where it's still approachable to the customer, but it makes something a little new and different. Same thing if you think of macaroni and cheese, you think of casseroles and things like that. That has been part of the trends for probably the past 2 or 3 years. So people are looking for that because it brings a memory back, right? I remember having something like this at my mom's or my grandmother's or something, so it's still approachable for them. Everything stuffed veggies is a big deal. You can see a chili relleno, which is up there, but think of stuffed bell peppers, right? Could go with it. You could take yellow crookneck squash or zucchini, hollow that out and stuff it with something and roast that off as well, where it's a really profitable dish, but it's a different way to kind of show product to a customer. Mushrooms is something that's really trending heavily right now. This is kind of the first year that that's been on the trends list. And people are looking at mushrooms as an alternative. Think of alternative to like a regular protein. Like if you wanted something, when you look at mushrooms, if you want something to have like a richer beef flavor to it, the darker the mushroom, the more intense and more depth of flavor that product's going to have. The lighter that it is, there's a higher water content to it, and it's a little bit milder in flavor. There are literally probably at least 200 to 300 varieties of mushrooms out there. When I was 20 years ago, when I was running a kitchen, I used to use a product called the lobster mushroom. So it looks actually like the lobster meat that you pull out of one of the claws and stuff like that. Same color profile, same type of a flavor to it. There's a great product called the lion's head mushroom. When you eat the product raw, it almost has a scallop taste to it. When you go to cook it, it starts to taste more like crab meat with it. So a lot of people will use that like in a mock crab meat dish as well. But it's a lot of diversity to it to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of earthy tone to a dish that you're formatting with it. Other big things, nitro cold brew. Has anybody had that before? That's a big thing right now. And you'll see it a lot in particular in convenience stores. A lot of hotels are starting to serve it. The way that it's produced, the viscosity is a little thicker. It's not like a milkshake quite, but it's definitely got a little bit more thickness to it. It gives a little bit more richness and flavor to it along with that caffeine kick that people are looking for. And energy drinks, don't just think of selling, here's a can of Red Bull or here's a can of Monster Energy. Those are being utilized in a lot of cocktail productions in restaurants and stuff. Specifically, if you've got a younger demographic, certainly younger than me, and if you're around a college or a university or anything like that, those are really hot trends, like doing as simple as could be vodka and Red Bull or something like that. But you look at all the different flavor profiles that are out there in cocktail production, it's something that people are looking for. Specifically, again, more of a younger demographic format. And then when we have coffee day and night, I will say one of my favorite cocktails is espresso martini with it, which a couple of people that I work with kind of got me hooked on a couple of years ago with it. But even hot coffee with alcohol in it, with bourbon or something like that. Think of as we're coming into fall, we're coming into winter time with it. It's really something that's getting a little bit more popular. It goes beyond just saying, here's an espresso, here's a good cappuccino, or here's a latte or something like that. It's a little bit more of an enhancement drink with it as well. Mocktails are still hot and trending out there, and these are just some pictures of some that are visually beautiful. When you're creating these dishes, you always want to think about, and we'll see it as we go on in this in the presentation, visual appeal, right? People eat in a restaurant 99% visual experience. The prettier that product is, the higher the probability you're going to have of somebody posting that on social media along with their ratings and stuff like that, give you a reason to come into the restaurant. Other customers are attracted into it as well. And mocktails is just something, even adults are looking for that. It goes beyond Shirley Temples and Roy Rogers and all those other drinks that I grew up with as a kid with it. People are just looking for something light and refreshing that they can drink when they're not looking just for alcohol. They don't want a soda as well. So having a couple of those on your menu is always a good benefit. Pickle cocktails, that is definitely a palatable individual taste, but there's pickle martinis there. You can see the little Cornichon pickles that are there. Look, some people love them. My daughter loves those dill pickles to eat. I am not a giant fan of eating them, but she loves them, so she would be a perfect segment for that. And then the botanical cocktail and mocktails that we talked about a little bit earlier. You know, using hibiscus for it, even using things like rosemary or different herbs and stuff to give a little bit of flavor enhancement to it. It's something that can provide you with some signature items that are kind of eye only for your restaurant and your customer base that's out there. When we think of captivating customers with LTOs, these are just some examples of ones that are out there, right? So we can look with just recently in September, USA Today saying pumpkin pizza, right? Butternut squash is coming out, because here we are coming into fall and winter time, right, with things. So when we're thinking of LTOs, the season itself is a good time to promote that. Think of the success somebody like Starbucks has when they're promoting the different cocktails, right? The Frappuccinos and things that come out. It's a reason for a customer to say, hey, I'm going to go there and get that. I've been waiting all year, right, to have something like that. And it matches the ingredients and flavor trends that are there. All of this data information, I use Data Essentials quite a bit as a source for LTOs, trending, and what customer input is. 75% of customers out there are looking for LTOs, and that doesn't matter what format or style of restaurant you have. They're looking for something new, something different, something to keep them loyal to you, a reason to come to you or to consider your restaurant as well. You know, testing new menu concepts. When I ran kitchens and I would identify every quarter what we would call dead menu items, right? This just means food that I thought was good, but nobody else did, right? Nobody's buying that dish. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I substitute that item? How do I get a winner, right, that's there? So what I used to do is I would run, in essence, an LTO. I'd set a trackable goal. I might say, hey, I want to sell 20 of these a day. I'm going to run that as a daily special, literally for 2 or 3 weeks, and see, based on input and feedback from our front of the house staff with interaction with customers, do they like this dish? Is this dish hitting my sales goals? So when I make that substitution, I'm not just throwing something against the wall. I have some analytics behind it, if that makes sense. So I can look and say, I feel like this is going to be a winner based on this information. I'm going to make this substitution. I feel like I have something that's going to work for me or sell with it. You don't want to just create something and throw it out there, because you may not come out any better, right, than you did the first time. You want to have some analytics behind it so that you're able to say, this makes sense for me to make this substitution. LTOs are always going to attract new customers for you. It's a way when people see these dishes being marketed by you, as we'll talk about on social media, on your website, if you do a blast with your customer email group or text group or something that you might have, a loyalty program. It's a reason for them to talk word of mouth to their friends, or somebody brand new to see something that they're interested in, to say, oh, this restaurant in town has it. I've been looking for this. I tried it in New York and they didn't have it here in Wisconsin. Now I see something like that. It gives me a draw, a reason to come in. You know, loyalty and another reason to visit is a big deal, right? We're always challenged in a restaurant setting. How do I keep my customer base, and how do I keep them excited, right? How do I keep them giving me good reviews? How do I keep drawing them in? How can I attract other people? And LTOs is a really nice way to do that. It's a way to say, this restaurant is always food forward. It's always being creative. It's providing things that I feel are delicious, right, as a customer. And it's giving my people a reason to come in that could be trying something different. It always is going to increase your sales and profit with it. It does give you a competitive advantage, because you may be doing things that your competition's not doing with it. It doesn't matter if, again, if you're quick service, family casual restaurant, upscale bistro, fine dining, all of these things apply across the board, convenience setting as well. It creates social media postings, and that's really what the world is driven by now, right? When you think about, I know when I travel, and I do travel quite a bit, and I'm looking for a restaurant, I do look, what's the Yelp rating, right? What are people saying about this restaurant? How is it being posted? What's the feedback? What are the photographs of the dishes there? That's what's getting me kind of interested and excited about trying this place out, right? At least it gives me enough information where I feel comfortable to say, I'm going to go and spend that discretionary dollar there. And I'm no different than any of you guys when you go out to eat. We're all customers at some point, right, of a restaurant with it as well. You know, creates positive reviews. It will if you do a good job, right? You'll get positive reviews. You'll be seen as somebody that's a little bit more unique and a little bit more different in the industry that you're competing against. When you create a successful LTO, the first thing up there is a big deal. Work within the capabilities of your team. That is a major deal, okay? You have to look and say, here's the capability level of my staff, here's what I feel like they can execute, right? And execute successfully, put out a beautiful dish, put out a consistent product, and something that's going to be memorable for the diner. You can't try to work something that's over the head and capability of the staff that's there. And there's a lot of great items out there now that allow you to do that. Even if you don't have a staff that's like me, a professional chef that can make everything from scratch, I'm still going to look and say, well, there's these low-touch items. And I say low-touch items, meaning pre-made, prefabricated in some way, that I could take that base and add one or two ingredients to it and make something special, right? And make something unusual, realizing I can still put out good food, but I can make it non-threatening to my staff and non-stressful to them. Make the food approachable to your customer base. That is a big deal. You do not want to put food on a menu that your customer base has no concept of whatsoever, right? At all. You can't use terminology on that menu description that only you know, right? I teach a class called Culinary IQ. Part of it is menu development. When I'm talking to our internal people, I'm always telling them the one thing that you don't want to do is use wording and terminology that you know and nobody else does. I don't need to show somebody why I have 30 years of culinary background, right? I need to keep it approachable with people. Instead of putting something down like it's a Hunter's sauce, it's a lot easier to say, hey, it's a mushroom demi-glace sauce, right, to go over the top of the steak. It's the same thing. It's just one way I'm using a fancy term, the other way I'm not with it. When you use terminology on a menu that's not approachable, your customer is probably never going to buy that dish. 98% of people that read a description that they don't understand will not ask what it is because it's kind of embarrassing. They just will not buy the dish. They'll move on to something else with it, where you could have a winner there with it. You know, it should reflect your cuisine. What I mean by that is, even if you're a pizza place, don't forget that you're a pizza shop, right? If you're a sandwich shop, you're a sandwich shop. You could use things and add harissa, chipotle pepper, things to a tomato sauce to make it spicier, but it still has to reflect who you are, right, with it. So like even when you use global flavors, which is the term they use now for fusion cuisine, which has been around since like 1975, you really want to use things that are sensible, right, that are still approachable or still understandable to your customer base with it as well. Presentation is always key. I can't stress that enough to you. Nowadays, with people photographing food on a regular basis, posting food, you posting food out there yourself, you want the food to be visually attractive with it. I always said, when somebody looks at a dish that I put out, that's the first judgment they're going to make about the value that I'm asking them to pay for that dish, right? When it comes out, it has to look like a $20 sandwich, or it has to look like a $30 plate of food. It cannot look like it's $10, right, with it. And I would tell you the same is true if you put photographs on your menu, which is not a bad thing. Just make sure your staff can actually execute those dishes so they actually look like that picture, right, that goes out. Customer surveys for ideas, I think, is a nice thing to do. If you have an attachment or an email chain with your customers, sending out a little survey monkey to them and saying, hey, what are you looking for that's different, right? Getting feedback from them to give you some concepts or foundational ideas is a nice thing to do as well. Connecting your LTO, if you have a customer rewards program, I think is a big deal. And you're seeing more and more restaurant operators putting in rewards programs to what? Maintain customers, draw them in to say, hey, thank you for spending that discretionary income here. Here's another reason to stay with me, to stay loyal with me as well, right? Maybe you double the points or triple the points or something like that if they're buying the product with it. Marketing your LTOs on social media, your websites, menu inserts, your front of the house team being trained to market those products and sell them when they're engaging with your customers. Emails and text blasts are another big deal to go through with it as well. You know, when I trained my front of the house staff, I knew they were my salespeople, right? I can't run out of the kitchen and go market these dishes. I wanted them to know everything inside and out. I actually used to take my menu and I would test them quarterly on the menu. We actually did role playing before the restaurant opened, so I could see how would you engage with a customer, how would you sell this dish, how would you talk to them about it, because once you can make that engagement, right, you want them to be able to upsell. That's what you're trying to do. Increased check average generates the better food cost percentage and better profit for you. Like one of my least favorite things to hear a front of the house person say, if I say, what's good? Everything, right? Well, I get it, and not that everything's not good, but you lost the opportunity to sell, right? It's like the next question is, well, what do you like, customer? Oh, I love crab cakes. I'm from New Orleans, so I'm going to talk about crab cakes, right? So if I had if you love crab cakes, we have jumbo lump crab cakes. They're hand formed, they're seared. It's a beautiful caramelized crust. They got this amazing roasted red pepper aioli on top. I think you'll find your favorite new crab cake here at my restaurant, right? I'm trying to sell that product, but I got to pitch that product in that small little time frame. And customer experience in the front of the house will keep people coming, or they will push people away. You could have amazing food, but if you have a bad front of the house team, people will not come back. Where you could have average food, but if you have an amazing front of the house team, you're going to stay in business for a long period of time. It's all about customer engagement and experience that is there, okay? Things that work classically well, seasonal and holiday inspired dishes, that's something that kind of falls into play pretty easily. Right now we have fall, we have winter, spring. Taking advantages of that, and it could be something that's a repeat LTO that comes back again and again that somebody's excited about and excited about coming to your restaurant for. Global flavors, like I said, that's been around really, honestly, since the 70s with fusion. They called it fusion cuisine. When you use global flavors, the one thing I will stress to you is make sure the food's approachable. Think of a global ingredient that could easily substitute out for something that's classic. If you're a Hispanic restaurant, a Japanese restaurant, Italian, what could I use that's spicy from over here that gives me a little global flavor but doesn't like totally blow the dish out, right? All the way out. It's got to be approachable and has to be understandable to the diner. Local ingredients is a big deal. A lot of customers are looking for saying, hey, we're in this area. Why are we not seeing product that's reflective of our cuisine, right? Of what the culture is, no matter what the state or the city's in. And using items like that is a natural draw. It's a sense of familiarity with those ingredients, right? It's a comfort zone for those customers. Value-based specials, a lot of people have been looking for that, and obviously we all understand how lovely inflation has been, right, for the past couple of years with it. So people are looking for a value with it. It doesn't mean it's for every restaurant, but you know, if I'm going to try to take customers from over here, do I create something that's a value to draw those people in for the day? I used to run a restaurant that I ran multiple different types of LTOs. One thing I used to do at one of them was I ran what's called a cycle menu along with a static menu. Static menu is like what all of us have, right? It's your regular menu. So the cycle menu, I'd have a specific special only on Monday, only on Tuesday, only on Wednesday that would repeat itself every week. And usually I made those a little bit more cost affordable, right? Even if it was lunch or dinner time. And then I'd run my daily market specials, right, as well, like something a little bit more creative. But it gave somebody a reason to come in. There might be a dish that they're interested in that usually reflected local cuisine of some sort with it. And I wanted to make sure that dish was kind of affordable, right? A little bit less expensive maybe than some other items on my menu, but it gave them a reason to draw in with it as well. Returning favorites is kind of what we talked about already. That means you have LTOs that are seasonal, that come into play at different points in time. So somebody's interested in that, right? They're excited about the idea, oh, it's fall, and Lonnie's restaurant is going to have this great lobster stuffed acorn squash dish that they did last year or something that they fell in love with, and that's a reason for me to come back. I'm excited about going there for that, okay? Why do customers love LTOs? These are reasons that customers are attracted to them, and this is from some information from Data Essentials. They look great in postings, right? Again, photography of the dish, plate presentation of the dish. When somebody saw it, they were like, my God, that's a beautiful dish. I think that's something I could get interested in. That's something I couldn't do at home, even though I might be a frustrated chef, but I'm an accountant or something like that. This is interesting to me. It's drawing me in. I want to try something new. I want to do something different. When you think of trying something new, I actually, on the way up here, I stopped and visited my son, who's at the University of Alabama. Took a couple of his buddies out for dinner, and my son orders, we're at a sushi restaurant, he orders 2 dishes, right? And then one of his buddies said, have you had that before? He says, I've had one of them, but I always just order something else. I don't know what it is on the menu because I want to try something different. with it. So he's like, I just want to try it. I want to know if it's something I might like or I might not like that I could fall in love with and stuff. And I said, well, that's pretty interesting. I didn't even know he did that with it. He goes, oh, yeah, well, my friends and I, we've been doing that for a long time, Dad. I said, that's pretty good with it. You know, heard from a friend, word of mouth, right? That's one of the most powerful marketing tools out there, that you have a foundational customer and they're going to draw new customers in because they talk about what an amazing experience they had at your restaurant. Again, the recurring LTOs, right? That thing that they fell in love with, it's again and again. Your front of the house team sold them on it. That's training, right? It's so important to make sure that your team in the front of the house is fully engaged with your customers from the point of entry to the point of leaving and everywhere in between with it, right? That they're always talking about the food. They're always trying to do some upselling and stuff like that as well. And like I talked about, I used to use the menu as a testing tool because I wanted them to remember it. I did role playing, and then I also grabbed the front of the house team members that were the most successful in increased check averages and had them talk, like maybe once a quarter, to the rest of the staff. How did you do that? How do you approach that table? How do you engage with that customer to get them to add these other items on, right, with it? The more that you can get into service, customer satisfaction, that front of the house team experience, you'll last a lot longer and you'll be a lot more profitable for a long period of time. It contained ingredients that somebody wanted to love or wanted to try, that they were really interested in or passionate about. It could have seasonal ingredients like we talked about, that, oh, I can't wait for spaghetti squash to come out, acorn squash to come out, butternut squash, pumpkin to come out with it. It was a special price, and that drew me in, right? Because we understand that there are less and less people with discretionary income that you're battling for out there, right? With and the things are starting to settle down, obviously a little bit more, but sometimes that's enough to get somebody drawn in to build that base that you're looking for and stuff as well. Even though one of it might buy the special price, you're hoping the others are going to choose, right, something that's a little bit different on there. And then exclusivity. It's something they can only find at your establishment as an LTO that's different from your competition, that can bring or pull some of those customers out of your competition's dining room and into yours as well, okay? Positioning to customers, daily market specials, again, a big deal. When you run daily market specials, you have to have a pre-shift meeting, right, with your team. I used to go out and I never created the daily market specials. I let my cooks do it, because it was kind of a neat way or a fun way for them to participate in it. And it actually even ran internal contests. So whatever cook had the biggest selling market specials for that week, I might give them a gift card, I might give them something, right, monetary or otherwise, to promote that sale. We would go out, put the food out, describe the dish. I'd want the front of the house team was expected to write it down. We did 1 or 2 little role-playing things to see how they could market and sell that item. I was looking for feedback from the front of the house team. Taste it. Hey, do you think this dish is worth $30? Is something wrong with this dish? And then if we needed to tweak it, we could tweak it before it went out to the dining room and stuff like that. But it's got to be kind of a full-blown process. Seasonal specials, that's always a big winner and stuff like that that's out there. You could look and have like a chef's tasting menu insert that could highlight different types of flavors and things, and it does not have to be a fine dining restaurant that does that. You could do what's called a prefix or a tasting menu, even if you're a sandwich shop, right? Where it's this appetizer, this sandwich, and this dessert, and X price with a drink, this is what you're going to get. And here's some different options that are out there for you with it. Weekly specials, that's kind of what we talked about. Think about cycling menus and stuff like that, or different things to offer out. And then bundles and family packs as well. Some people like communal dining, or you run a big to-go business, or it's holiday time, and you're going to offer, hey, here's a complete meal, right, for Thanksgiving if you want to do this. Here's a complete meal at Christmas time and stuff as well. I will tell you, a neat thing to do if you do offer that way, besides saying, here's how to heat it up, I used to always put recipes in to show them how to use the leftovers. Like, here's a creative way. Here's 3 ideas of what you could do with this leftover product to create other amazing meals for your family when you come back. It's little bitty things like that that separate you from your competition, that makes somebody remember, oh, I had never seen this before. This is something different. This is something creative, right, that they're trying to help me with as well, okay? Marketing support, menu inserts is an easy way to do it. Definitely train the staff. I know you keep hearing that from me again and again, but that's your engagement point with the customer, right? They're marketing the product. They're selling the product. They're doing it with enthusiasm. They have a knowledge of it. buttons, coasters, table tents. Definitely put it on your website, do your own social media posting that's there, email blast to customers as well. The one thing I will stress to you, and this is just for being a diner, when I look at a restaurant's menu, I expect to see pricing on the menu, if that makes sense. I don't like to look at a restaurant's menu and there's no cost associated with it at all. That to me may make me pick a different restaurant. I mean, if you're going to be expensive, I get it. It's fine. I just want to know what I'm paying, right, for the item and stuff. Another thing I would tell you is not the best thing to do is what is called market price on a menu. You know, usually that means you're afraid as a restaurant operator of the price, and you put it on there because of that. But what happens is bulk of the diners out there will not even order that dish because they want to know how much are they paying, right? It would be like us walking into a clothing store and there was no pricing on anything, and it was a guessing game. Well, you probably wouldn't go there again, right, with it. So have cost in there, be approachable to the diner, be sensible about it as well, okay? Concept support. So when you're thinking of how do I come up with these ideas, you know, I have our Chef's Council listed here. All of you that are customers at Performance Food Service, we have over 50 professional chefs as part of the Chef's Council, and those are situated at our different operating companies around the United States. There are specialists there, business development managers there that you can engage with. They can at least give you some concepts and ideas. They could be, they're reassuring what you're doing. They could come in and help you with ideation as well. Trend reports are great. Again, Data Essentials is a good source. I like the National Restaurant Association puts out a really great trends report at the end of the year, going into 25 as well. You know, Food and Wine Magazine is another really nice one to look at. So whatever you're comfortable with, and I like to research a couple of different points to get different concepts and ideas as well. I think customer input, again, is an interesting way to go. Running surveys and getting conversational feedback from your front of the house staff to who they're engaging with is a nice way to figure out, okay, everybody's asking for this dish. This is something that might make sense, right, for me to offer, to try to see how that's going to go with it as well. What is your competition doing out there? Local and national. You can look beyond your local market, right? We have Google now, obviously. You search out and say, other restaurants that are like me around the country, what are they doing successfully that maybe could spur an idea or concept on me as well with it? Has it worked in the past, right? If something works, you want to repeat that item, right, again and again and again, or at least repeat the process of cooking, the flavor profiles that are there, even though you're using different ingredients, because you know it's a winner for you already, okay? You know, limited time offers, it helps you stay on trend and fresh, right, in the mind of a customer, meaning they're always doing something new, they're innovative, they're kind of leading the culinary field in my community that's there. It sets excitement for a customer because they could say, hey, a sense of urgency or exclusivity. Maybe you're going to run that special for a month and they know I got to get there this month to try that product, to draw in, right, with it. It definitely always will boost traffic, which in turn increases your sales and profit. It's a great interest point, again, understanding what your customer needs are. Like we said in the beginning, 75% of diners in the United States are looking for LTOs. And it doesn't matter what type or style of restaurant that's out there. That's just the fact, right? So you have those customers already that are coming to your restaurant. And if you're not doing those LTOs, that's something you want to try to take advantage of as well. Pricing it correctly if you feel like that's of value to the customer. Am I in an area, maybe it's more rural or something like that, I'm competing against these other quick service restaurants, how do I draw somebody in and be profitable with it? And that could be getting, again, insight, right, from your partners at PFG to find out what are some internal ingredients that I can utilize to give me a certain profit point, to give me a certain food cost percentage as well. Stay on brand is a big deal. Make sure when you're cooking, it reflects who you are, right? If you're this style of restaurant, all of your ingredients and food should be reflective of that, right? You don't want to be out in left field with a special that's on a menu and they're like, well, this, I'm coming here, it's an Italian restaurant. How are they doing? What is this Thai dish doing on the menu? Does that make sense? Because it doesn't fit. It doesn't matter if it would be an amazing dish or not. Your probability of sales are smaller. Now, you could use those ingredients to enhance kind of what you're doing, like flavoring ingredients and stuff like that, but you want to make sure it's approachable with it, and it really reflects who you are as a restaurant and how you market yourself with it. And that's all I've got. Any questions from anybody out there? Is everybody good? The secret is just take me home with you, right? And I'll just come and create some dishes for you guys and stuff like that as well. Look, I hope you had a good time hanging out with me. I appreciate you taking time to do that. Go out on the show floor. There's some amazing food out there. Like I said, I have 8 of our chefs out there. Thank all of you for being great customers for PFG, and have an awesome time here in Nashville, y'all. All right, have a good one.